I'm Jennifer Burtz, and my friend Valley and I co-host, I guess you'd call it, the Lilies and Sparrows Co-op and Alliance. Um, Hi there. Um, it's good to see the videos. I know a lot of people like to not do video, but it's good to see the faces. We usually, I mean, with Corona, everything closed, but we usually meet on Friday mornings from 10 to noon. And we are young. We are at this point age 10 and under. So we had a lot of little kids. We already talked about for this fall, I think that we will start at maybe a park or a playground until the weather turns sour. And I guess at that point, we'll just have to make a decision of what we're actually going to do. But that's what I think our plan is for September, at least, is to meet at a playground and just play really at this point. I think that if we are able to meet in the church, we use the Wellspring Bible Church, which currently is in the mall, though at some point we'll be relocating as well. That will separate into like some older kids and some younger kids, because we had a lot of like 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds, and they have a different learning style than say 8 to 10-year-olds. So I think that we'll switch that up just a little bit for fall if we're able to meet as usual. But that's where we are for now. I think a lot of things are in limbo, so I mean we kind of are too, but that's the plan.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I'm Debbie Gibson, and I'm glad those of you who are here. And I hope that you'll take information away from here tonight that you can share with others, because we have a lot of new homeschoolers this year, and a lot of people scared and nervous. Some people feel like they've been thrown into it. This isn't really what they wanted to do. And I hope that we can encourage those as well. If you are one of them, then especially I hope you're encouraged tonight. My name is Debbie Gibson. I guess it says that on my screen. My husband Dan and I have 9 children, all of whom have been homeschooled from the start. We also have 7 grandchildren at this point. And we're often asked how long we've been homeschooling. And I can tell you the answer to that is twofold. First, we sent our first notification in 1994. Then we'll talk a little more about the other part of that in a minute. First, we're gonna have just a real brief vocabulary lesson. Don't get scared away. It's supposed to be kind of funny. I looked these words up and wrote down definitions, and I use them in these talks all the time. The word home, the definition is the place where one lives permanently, especially as a member of a family or household. Education is an enlightening experience. School is an institution for educating children. So, for those reasons, I like to use the term home education in place of homeschooling, because my home is not an institution, but rather an enlightening experience, I hope. Sometimes my kids might have thought it was an institution with 9 kids, but anyway, our oldest will be 33 in November. Our youngest is 16, so we are graduating our number 8 next weekend. And we've got about 2 years left on this end of it. And then hopefully some of the grandkids will be homeschooled too. I know of at least 3 of our kids are absolutely planning on that. So that's where we're at. So I often say homeschooling anyway, just so that people know what I'm talking about, because that's what most people know it by. So now you understand why I say home education if I do. So when people ask how long we've been homeschooling, here's the second part of that answer is a question to you. Who taught your child how to walk? Put your hand up if you know who did that. If you know the person who did that. All right. Who taught your child how to talk, how to hold a spoon, how to use the toilet, wash their hands, stack blocks? You did those things. You've been educating your child for years already. Okay. In Ohio, we have a compulsory attendance law that says that children between the ages of 6 and 18 need to be in school or excused from being in school. If your child will be 6 years of age on or before the first day of school in your district, he is now of compulsory attendance age. and you are required by law to send them to school or to obtain an excuse from compulsory attendance for the purpose of home education. That's the purpose of the notification that you have probably already heard about in regards to homeschooling. We're going to talk about notification tonight. That's the main reason I'm here. Okay. If you were one of the many families who were forced into quarantine schooling, I want you to be encouraged that what you experienced is not homeschooling. That's not home education. Um, that was an unusually stressful situation for everybody. Even those of us who have been homeschooling for years were stressed by the fact that everything was closed. We weren't able to take our kids and do the fun things that home educators usually do. Home educators usually spend a lot of time in museums and parks and zoos and all of those things, and all of those things were closed to us as well. So in addition, you had the stress of having to follow somebody else's lesson plans and try to read their mind as to what they were expecting of your children. In home education, you get to decide all of that. In home education, you as the parent decide what your children will learn and when. You determine the curriculum and choose the books or other resources that you might want to use. You decide on the field trips. You determine whether or not grades will be assigned, what the criteria will be for those grades, or however it is that you determine that you're going to set goals for your children and their assignments and their courses. Okay, so you get to determine all of that. The law doesn't, the state does not decide that for you. So we're gonna,
just a second. I thought I would mention there's a chat function in Zoom. If you're not familiar with it, if you go to the top right-hand side of your screen, there's 3 little dots. Let's see, I believe that's how you do it. I was just gonna say, if people have questions. Oh, well, I'm on a computer, so mine's at the bottom and it has a little like talk bubble and it says chat. I think if you're on a phone, it might be a little different. But if you have a question for Debbie, if we could use that chat function, and then we won't interrupt her a bunch. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's fine. It's fine. It's also it's a little smaller group than I was expecting too. So
okay, good.
Even a raise of the hand might even work.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about this evening, of course, home education, but specifically I'll be talking with you about how to get started. My husband and I are representatives of CHIO. CHIO was established in 1983, and I apologize for reading this part. I just don't want to mess this part up. It's important that I get all the words in. CHIO was established in 1983 and has served Ohio home educators in many ways since that time. We have a legislative liaison, Melanie Elsie, who attends almost all of the Ohio State Board of Education meetings and also maintains relationships with many of the legislators in the State House who are friendly to our cause, and also spends time building bridges with those who are not necessarily friendly to our cause, in order to keep a watchful eye on proposed legislation which may negatively affect home education and our freedoms here in Ohio to home educate our children. So she's been doing this for about as long as I've been homeschooling. So you get an idea of, how long she's been doing that. We're very grateful for her work and appreciate the alerts that she sends out to homeschoolers in Ohio so that we know when we need to take some action, whether we need to contact our legislators and urge them one way or another on a proposed piece of legislation or something along those lines. So it's helpful to stay in touch with CHIO for that reason, if nothing else. All right. In addition, CHIO offers events throughout the year that are designed to encourage and bring home educators together. We've got a Facebook group where you can bounce ideas off of each other. I will send you a follow-up email after this evening with some helpful links so that you don't have to remember, you don't have to write a whole lot of stuff down tonight. You'll get those helpful links in an email. The way I'm going to do that, usually I pass around little pieces of paper and you fill it out with your name and your email address. And then I have a drawing and I give a prize away. It's a little bit harder in this situation. So what I'm going to ask you to do is when we're done here tonight, send me an email. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. I'll give you my email address in a minute. Send me a quick email with just Alliance Zoom in the subject line. If you have a question after this presentation that you don't want to ask during the presentation, you can ask it in an email, or you can just send me a blank email with that in the subject line, and that'll work. That will sign you up for the drawing. It'll also get you the follow-up email. I will be able to send that to you then. Okay, so what I want, just real quick, what I'm going to send you if you win the prize, I'm going to share my screen. So this is new technology for me. I'm going to share my screen to show you what I'm going to send you. Can you see it? This is written by Jay Ryan, who is a former homeschool dad here in the Cleveland area. He has, I believe he has graduated all his children now. That's why I said former. Okay, back to meeting, right? Okay, all right, I'm back to where I should be again, I think. Okay, so the other thing I did want, I'm sorry, I did want to share two things in a row there. And that was our business card, because there's the email address there. So there is our email, at my email address there. That's the one I want you to send an email to. My phone number is also on there. And my phone number is on there because most questions usually come from moms. If there's a dad out there, or if your husband somewhere along the line has a question or a concern, why is my wife losing her mind, or whatever, you know, something like that, they can feel free to contact my husband. You can email me, email us at this address, and then he will get in touch with the husband, the dad, whatever the case may be. Okay. So we have that connection as well. We usually do end up with a couple of dads in these meetings, and it's good to see. Even in a small group, we have one. I've got a couple names that I don't know for sure. If there's a dad there too, it doesn't matter. Just making a point. All right. We get back to my notes here. Oh, one note on that, contacting me, just like your home, my kids are bigger, but they're just as loud as yours. So I do prefer email or Facebook message as opposed to telephone calls, because my kids are just bigger and louder. It's just as loud here. All right, so let's get started on this notification business. That's what we came here for. If your child will be district, it's time to obtain that excuse for compulsory attendance. And you do that by notifying your district's superintendent of your intent to home educate. We're going to go to the CHIO website. I'm going to take you there. You don't have to click on it for now. I know I can do this. I did it last night. My husband showed me how. We were all good. And oh no, I'm not seeing it. There we go. I got it. Hopefully this is working. Can you see that? Can you see the CHIO website? Oh, great. That was the worst. That was the scariest part for me. Okay. So I want to show you couple real quick things here on the website. First of all, the front page tells you a little bit about who we are. CHIO has had the honor for 35 years to serve as a state homeschool organization here in Ohio. We work as a year-round ministry to support and encourage all home educators. We have Christian in our name. We act under Christian principles. All of the board members are Christians, and that's the way we live our lives and the way that we run our business here. But we don't ask you if you're a Christian before we help you with your homeschool needs. So don't worry about that. If you are not, we're still happy to help you. Okay, so don't let that turn you off. All right, moving right along to about who we are. This tells you more about who we are, our mission, and our mission statement. Here's our leadership team. Honestly, it's just a little outdated. We've had a couple of those step out and a couple new ones step in who have not been added to that yet, but I'm there and you can contact me anytime. All right, the next one is support CHIO. Join us. Well, of course, we'd love for you to support us financially. Here are some perks to not necessarily to joining, because honestly, we help everybody. So just this is what you are supporting if you choose to support us financially. The cost is $30 first year, $25 for renewals after that. All right, next is events. Most of our events have been canceled this year, as you can imagine. We have still coming our scramble, and currently we're still hoping and praying that we can do Capitol Day, which is where we all converge on the state capitol, and we hear from legislators, and um, we just it's a wonderful day of learning about our state capitol. It's a great day for you to get some Ohio history and Ohio government, things like that in. All right, we're going to skip over 101 for a minute because that's where we're going to park for the evening. Support groups. If you're looking for a support group, you can click on the support groups. I'm not going to click on it right now just to save a minute. You're already currently hooked up with a support group right here by being in this meeting tonight. You are loosely associated now with Lilies and Sparrows. So Jennifer will happily be your go-to person to help you find out what you need to know in the area regarding what kinds of resources are available to you, what kinds of parks, museums, or whatever are good for homeschoolers in your area. The legislative section on the end, please do click on that on your own time because that is some great information there from Melanie. Some updates and she keeps us updated on all kinds of things. Back to 101, this is where we're going to park for the evening. The very first line there is our homeschool regulations. And state of Ohio regulations and rules for excuses from compulsory attendance for home education. So we mentioned that earlier, and this is what it's all about. This is what the notification is all about. So there's some definitions here. Most important one I want to go over tonight is home education means education primarily directed and provided by the parent or guardian. And the rest of it, it's important, but I'm not going to bother with it. Education primarily directed and provided by the parent. So if you are what we call quarantine schooling, in other words, your child is still associated directly with the public school and the public school is giving you assignments and grading your child's work and all that, that is not actually home education. We call that public school at home. So if that's what you're doing, then none of what I have to say tonight is going to pertain to you. So this is specifically for if you are planning to completely direct your child's education, choosing your own curriculum and all those kinds of things. Okay, notification. Consistent application of procedures and practices throughout the state by superintendents and parents is essential for children receiving home education and helps to safeguard the primary right of parents to determine the appropriate education for their children. A parent who elects to provide home education shall supply the following information to the superintendent no later than the first week at the start of the public school building the child would attend in the school district of residence. If you're just moving into the district, that's, different timing and all that. But if you're planning to start at the beginning of the school year, then you need to have this notification in no later than the first week of the start of the public school building the child would attend if they were attending the public school. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to flip to the next thing. The reason for that is, whoops, that's not what I meant to click on. I meant to click on beginning the journey. This is a great getting started. For anybody who misses tonight and they say, I wish I could have made that, help me out. This is where you send them because this is all of it. This is who needs to notify, who needs to get that excuse from compulsory attendance. And then we go down to the step-by-step guide. Okay, we looked briefly at the regulations at the very start of them. I could click on that and we could go back to that, but there's no need. What we're going to do now is move on to the notification form, which is basically the rest of the regulations copied and pasted with lines put in for you to complete so that you will have met all of the requirements of those regulations. Okay. We already read the purpose clause. Now we move down to notification. So what you're going to need to do is to complete this form and send it to your superintendent. We'll talk more about that when we're done. We're just going to go through the form first. It's not hard. A parent who elects to provide home education shall supply the following information to the superintendent within the time frame set by the regulations. We tuck that in at the end of the form because there are different time frames depending on your situation. as we mentioned. If you're starting at the beginning of the school year, we already talked about that. Number one, school year for which notification is made. If you're starting this school year, it'll be 2020, 2021. Simple enough. Name of parent. You can put one parent or both parents. If the child lives with only one parent, I personally recommend that you just put the parent who has that, um, uh, who gets to make the decisions regarding education. That's my recommendation. That's not a specific legal thing. Just might make things a little bit easier. Address, same thing. The residential, where the child lives. Telephone number, email are both optional. They are listed here because they're in the regulations, but they are listed in the regulations as optional. We recommend that you don't give either one of those. The reason is we want all of your information to be, all of your communication with the superintendent should be in writing. You might say, well, email is writing, and that's true. But we'll talk in a few minutes about why that's not the best way to communicate with them. Okay. Number three, most people leave this blank or put N/A for not applicable. This is the name, address, and telephone number of persons who will be teaching the child the subjects set forth in paragraph A5. That's this stuff down here. That's all the subjects that you're going to agree to teach, if other than the parent. So this is if you are hiring somebody else to homeschool your kids. Okay. So if, for instance, and this happens, so if it's you, then you need to pay attention to what you need to do. If you are hiring your sister to homeschool your kids, then her name and address are going to go in here rather than yours. This would not remain blank then. If you are the person who is providing the education, then this doesn't go in here. If somebody else is homeschooling your kids, their information goes in here. This is not for a tutor or a co-op teacher or a private lessons, say, or a martial arts coach. That's not what this is for. This is if somebody else is doing the home education. Okay, I hope that's understandable. Again, leave their phone number off. You don't want any communication with them to be by phone either. He said, she said, those things can get ugly. We want it all in writing. Number four, full name and birth date of children to be educated at home. Use additional paper if needed. Again, name, birth date. Please note that there is no space here for a grade level. We don't use grade levels in home education. Grade levels are designed to group kids according to age or ability in a school setting. We don't use grades. We use birth dates and levels. Whatever level the child is at. You'll find over time they'll be in one level for language arts, maybe even one level for spelling. Maybe they're a little slower on learning how to compose. So writing might take a little longer. Math might take longer. Science, they might be a whiz and be more advanced. So grade levels are crazy with homeschool because you're going at your own children's pace in each subject level. You understand what I can't see your faces. I hope you understand. If you don't, let Jennifer know via chat. Okay, number 5. Notice this little teeny tiny blank here. Assurance that home education will include the following, except that home education shall not be required to include any concept, topic, or practice that is in conflict with the sincerely held religious beliefs of the parent. Please notice this little tiny blank is big enough for a check mark. That's it. You're not writing anything in there. You're not circling or crossing anything out here, just a little check mark. You're saying, yep, I will teach all of those things. Very simple. Number 6 and 7 are just a little more complicated, but not too bad. Okay, number 6, you're going to include on a separate sheet of paper, it says attached, a brief outline of the intended curriculum for the current year. Several words are critical here. First word is brief, which means short. I do miss the interaction right now because I like to talk to people about that. Okay, moving on to the outline. That's kind of a funny thing because in my years of doing these workshops, I've discovered that there are about, 6 or 7 people in the state who actually turn this in an outline form. Most people just write a paragraph or list or whatever. I actually send mine in an outline form. I'm a rule follower. And when I first started homeschooling, I saw outline and I made it an outline. So I always do an outline. The one thing I didn't do was notice this word when I first started. And I sent in a very extensive outline when I first started. Don't do that. Brief. Okay. Next really important word is intended. And the reason that that's so important is because you are going to provide a plan to the superintendent. This is my planned curriculum for the year. You can change it anytime you want. You're only going to tell him what you plan to do at the beginning of the year. You change your mind in a week, a month, or 6 months, or whatever. You don't need to tell anybody. They know when you send it in that this was your original plan for the year. You do not need to let them know if you change your plan. Okay. The other important part here is that it says it is for informational purposes only. The reason that's important is because you need to know that as you are sending in your outline, you want to include all the subjects, but you don't have to worry about whether they approve of the way you are teaching these subjects. Okay. You get to choose how you're going to teach them. They don't get to have a say in that. They can only say, yes, you need to teach all these things. Not, I don't like your plan for teaching that. Your plan is your plan and it's okay. It's just to let them know. The same thing when you get to number 7, your list of textbooks, correspondence courses, commercial curricula, other basic teaching materials that the parent intends to use for home education. And again, this will be attached. This will be a separate sheet. It's also for informational purposes only. My recommendation here, last year, I don't even know how many emails I got from people saying, somebody told me to use this particular letter or whatever, and it was way too vague. So when the superintendent got it, there was no indication to him of any specific resources. Basically, what they had sent said something to the effect of, yes, we're going to teach all the subjects that you said we have to teach, and we're going to use whatever resources we choose. That's not good enough. They do want to know how you're teaching these subjects briefly, and they want to know that you have access to certain resources that you're going to use that you plan to use to teach these subjects. So again, they can't say, no, that's not a good resource, or we don't like that resource, or that's religion based and you can't use that, or anything like that. It is only to let them know that you have access to a resource that will enable you to teach those subjects. Okay, so I recommend that you include all of these subjects in your outline. All of the subjects in number 5 get included in your outline. But for instance, let's say for science, you're not going to copy these down. Instead of science, on your outline, you're going to say maybe biology. Or somebody sent me one to look over today that said ornithology. Whatever it is you're going to study, you're planning to study that year, list that in place of science. Okay, so you're giving them just a little more detail. When it comes to your list of resources, you can list whatever you're going to use. You're not bound to using those resources. You do not need to give them an exhaustive list. You don't have to tell them everything that you could possibly use. That's not even possible, because you're going to go, hopefully, you're going to go to the library and choose all kinds of books on all kinds of subjects, and you don't even know what those books are yet. So you'll want to include various library resources as well. But books that you know already you're going to use, list those. Gives them an idea that you have already researched this and you have access to resources. One thing I want to mention on that is that I said we don't do grades in homeschool. So if you're using, for instance, a Becca Math 5, just say a Becca Math. It doesn't matter what level you're on. And here's one of the reasons. Here's one real important reason. Your child may struggle with that at Becca Math 5. And you may not quite be done with it next year when it's time to start school again. And you don't want to put a Becca Math 5 again. But if you just put a Becca Math, you're good. You're moving at your child's pace, whatever you accomplish, as long as they're making progress. I get a lot of questions on 5 and 6. I'm sorry, on 6 and 7. I'm happy to answer anything I can, especially via email. Usually I'll do that in person, but this is an odd circumstance. I have had several people send me their outline and list of resources and ask me to look over it before they mail it in. I'm happy to do that. Okay, moving on to number 8, assurance. Again, tiny little check mark here. Assurance that the child will be provided at a minimum of 900 hours of home education each school year. You are not required to keep a log of those 900 hours. Since you are not required to keep a log, nobody can ever ask you to see that log. So you don't have to worry about that. If you were to log the hours of your child's learning, I'm not talking about the hours that they sit at a desk or a table and do bookwork, but the hours that they're learning something. You'd be done by about Thanksgiving with that 900 hours. They're learning all the time when they're awake. If you're making dinner and they're watching you, they're learning. If you're making dinner and they're in the next room building with Legos or some other kind of blocks or painting, they're learning. They're always learning. So don't worry about that 900 hours. You're going to put a check mark there. If you're paying attention to your child and interacting with them on a regular basis, they're going to hit 900 hours real soon. Number 9, another assurance, check mark. Assurance that the home teacher has one of the following qualifications. You're not going to circle which one that you have. Some people have several college degrees and they like to list those because it makes them feel really good about themselves. Now's not the time to brag about that. At this moment, it's just an assurance that you meet one of the qualifications. If you don't have a high school diploma or any of these others, look at letter E. Lacking the above, the home teacher must work under the direction of a person holding a baccalaureate degree from a recognized college until the child's or children's test results demonstrate reasonable proficiency, or until the home teacher obtains a high school diploma or the certificate of high school equivalence. What that means is even if you don't meet one of these other criteria, we can hook you up with somebody else to oversee your progress, and you can still homeschool. Anybody in Ohio can homeschool their kids. We'll help you figure out where you fit in here. It doesn't matter. As long as you just put a check mark that you do meet one of those qualifications. If you don't meet A through D and you need help getting somebody with a baccalaureate degree to work with, let us know. We'll help you. Number 10, the parent shall affirm the information supplied with his or her signature prior to providing it to the superintendent. That means you need to sign this paper right here and date it before you send it. Your first time notifying, that's all you're going to need. Okay, so you're going to make a copy. You're going to have this form, front and back up real quick. You don't have to use this form. You can write a letter yourself as long as you include all the information on the form. That being said, it's a whole lot easier to just fill out the form. Make sure that you don't miss anything. Okay, saves you a lot of time. So the form completed front and back, your outline of intended curriculum, and your list of intended resources. Make a copy of each of those things to keep for yourself at home and send a copy to the superintendent of your local school district. You're going to send it certified. That way, somebody at the office has to sign for it. When you send it certified, you will get a receipt from the post office that shows, that gives you a tracking number that you can follow online, that tracking number, so you'll know when it gets delivered. You'll get a picture of the signature when somebody signs for it. Keep that screenshot that and hang on to it. That's your proof that they got it. We used to say send it with return signature required. So there was this extra green card Now that it's the certified shows up online, tracking online, you don't need that extra green card anymore. So just track it online and then screenshot that so that you know when they got it. Okay? And you hang on to that as your proof that you mailed it, proof that they got it. Okay? You want to make sure you send this in no later than the first week of school. CHIO recommends you send it about 2 weeks before school starts. Gives time for delays and all that. Make sure that you stay in compliance. So there's no issues. Well, I was going to be in compliance, but the mail was delayed. You don't have to worry about that. After you have notified the first time, okay, every time after the first time, you're going to need to include an academic assessment report. You don't need to worry about that this time if it's your first time. Actually, even if it's your 10th time this year, you don't have to worry about it because that has been waived for this year because of COVID restrictions. So we actually have a legislation that is, if you go back to the legislative section of our website, that is explained there. I won't go into that because that could take a really long time. All right. Okay, I've covered the form and I've covered how you need to mail it, when you need to mail it. I'm going to look at my notes and see if there's anything that I specifically wanted to mention. Okay, after they receive it, they have 2 weeks to look it over and decide if it's compliant or not. If it meets all the regulations, you're good to go. They'll send you a letter that says your child is excused from compulsory attendance. If they find something missing, then within 2 weeks of receiving it, they can send you a letter that says, we're not accepting this, something's missing. They'll tell you what's missing and you have then 2 weeks to fix that. So no need to panic if they send you a letter that says you're missing something. Get a hold of me if you need to, and I'll help you figure out what's missing and we'll get it going. Okay, no worries. But my goal is to help you send it in once and be done. That's why I do these workshops. So you can just send it once, be done. Get a letter from the superintendent that says your child is excused. Okay. That letter of excuse from compulsory attendance is very important. Do you want to hang on to that? That's golden. Actually, you can get discounts some places with that, but it's your proof that your child is allowed to be out of school. Okay. Sometimes they're a little slow in getting those letters out. If it takes a long time to get it, give them some grace. This year especially, I don't even know how they're going to pull everything off this year, but give them a little grace, give them a few weeks. If you don't hear anything after a few weeks, send them another letter. You don't send it certified. Just send another letter that says, hey, I sent my notification for home education. According to my records, you received it on such and such a date. I'd appreciate my letter excuse from compulsory attendance. Okay, that's that. I think that's all I have in my notes that I wanted to cover regarding the notification. Anything regarding specifically how to choose curriculum and things like that, my recommendation there is that you actually talk to a lot of people. You want to get advice from several different people. What they used that worked, what they used that didn't work. That's why I love the Facebook group. And again, I'll send you a link for that later on if you have sent me an email. On the Facebook group, you can say, my child is such and such a years old. She's interested in this and this and this. Perhaps she was in public school before and she did well in one thing, but didn't do well in something else. Give a little information and people will be able to share with you what worked for them in a similar circumstance. Yeah, the curriculum is probably the biggest thing that I'm not real comfortable on giving advice on these days, because since I started homeschooling my kids, the curriculum options have exploded tremendously. When we started, there were about 3 options, and now there's about 3,000 options. So you want to hear from a lot of people on that. Jennifer, is there anything else I need to cover?
I have a specific question that when I have sent it in to the superintendent, I've always put his name, but the Alliance superintendent actually switched to a different school district in June, like he's not coming back. So they haven't hired a new superintendent. Do I just still write superintendent and they'll need to
Definitely.
figure it out? I mean,
Yeah,
we don't have a superintendent right now, so
that's sad,
kind of
but
unique. Yeah, and
there's
especially
going to
with
be
everything going on.
there's going to be somebody who has to take his responsibilities.
Okay.
So again, it'll probably take a while before you get your letter back,
Yeah, I don't
because
know what they're doing.
it's going to get shuffled around. And honestly, I feel really bad for the school systems this year. I don't know how they're going to pull this off. I don't know
Yeah.
how they're going to, all this effort and money they're putting into being ready to open the schools. And unfortunately, after they're open for a couple weeks, somebody's liable to test positive and they're gonna have to pull everybody back out again.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do.
So
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel bad for them right now. I can't imagine having to make those kinds of decisions.
the assistant superintendent actually even followed the superintendent, said like they have nobody. You might mention, because there's a lot of Ohio districts, not mine, but maybe somebody close to here, has those service education centers or
Oh,
something.
okay. Yeah.
You might mention that.
Educational Service Center. There are several counties who hire out this work. So you send your notification packet to, I'm going to step out of I'm going to quit sharing the screen and come back to this. Okay. So you put in your notification and they send back to you and say, oh, you needed to submit it to the ESC. Well, that's a tough one because according to the regulations, we're supposed to submit them to the superintendent. So we recommend that that's what you do. And they are allowed to farm that out to the ESC if they choose and have the ESC look over it and determine whether it is in compliance. That's up to them. They can do that if they want to. But your responsibility is to the superintendent. So just keep it simple and keep sending it there. Honestly, there have been folks have talked to people at HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and advice that they've been given has been, it doesn't matter that much. It's not really worth fighting about. My opinion on it is they want us to stick to the regulations, so we want to stick to them. It makes sense to stick to them. It's just a little word there that says to send it to the superintendent, but that's it. It is what we're supposed to do. So just our recommendation is, yeah, do it. Anything else that I can hit on right now?
Liz mentioned in the chat, I don't know if everybody has access to that. There is a curriculum sale this Saturday in Alliance. The details, what was the Facebook? Was it the event that you posted, Liz?
Looks like we lost Liz. I don't see her.
I'm here. I just was on mute. Yes, I posted a link to the event page there, and I can make sure you have that, Jennifer, if you want to give it to Debbie so she can put it in the follow-up email. But
yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
A rummage sale and curriculum sale this Saturday, and yeah, I'm planning to be there. I think Jennifer's going to hand off some books that she wants to make better use of, just somebody else. So yeah. Come out and check it out. Have some conversations. Like Debbie said, it's a great place to have some local conversations with people of what they've done, what they've
used curriculum sales are a great place to hear about what worked, what didn't work. And you get your hands on it. You get to actually look at it, touch it, open it. I mean, you look at it and see, oh, my child would never like this. Or, oh my goodness, this is exactly what my child loves. And that's real helpful. Used curriculum sales are awesome.
Yeah, the networking, just meeting other homeschool moms, just asking those questions. People have been there before, and yeah, it's good.
Yep, good.
Do you want to mention your email address one more time, or do you want me to say it?
I can sure do that. My email is gibsonteam, GIBSONTEAM 81 @att.net.
And Debbie's a great resource. You can certainly message me too. I'm on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I have
Also,
funny hours because I work overnights. So.
Oh, that's rough. Once you join the CHIO Facebook group too, you have the opportunity to be able to see who on there are admins and moderators. You can ask questions of any of the admins and moderators. They can probably answer any question you got. So feel free to do that. I'm the most active in the group, but if you message any of them, they'll be happy to help you out too.
While we have you, are we able to ask a question?
Sure, it's a small enough group that it seems like it'll work. Okay.
Well, I made my husband come to support, and I think he wants, like, him and I both want confirmation when our kids, they're young, but when they go to graduate, we don't need any of those assessments. We don't need any, like, how does the school know, just those papers, that our child has been homeschooled? Is that how? I don't want to mess them up now for the future. That's my only concern.
Understand. Yeah, nobody wants to mess them up, that's for sure. Yeah, so you will need to hang on to your letter of excuse from compulsory attendance for their last year. You'll hold on to that one forever, like you hold on to birth certificates and social security numbers and all those things. But as far as what they did in school, you only need to keep that for your own records. That being said, I have had several go into college, and I have learned the hard way that I didn't keep good enough records while they were in school. So I see Leslie is there grinning. She knows exactly what I'm talking about because she deals with people who didn't keep good enough records, and they're stuck. So when you're trying to create your transcripts, your child's transcripts for high school to move on to college, and you might think they're not going to college, and then suddenly in April of their senior year, they say, I decided I want to go to such and such and study such and such. And you think, I didn't keep good enough records. I'm never going to be able to pull this together. So keep records of, especially their high school years, of what courses they took, a description of each course, what books you used, if you used books. If you didn't, then what resources you did use to go through those subjects. Leslie, would you like to share anything else that they should include in those? Because I know you would be a helpful resource in that area. Leslie's muted. There you are.
The thing I would say is start in 8th grade as a practice year. Also, your 8th graders, if they're doing a high school level course, can get credit in 8th grade. But start keeping track in 8th grade and keep track of, the courses like Debbie said, any extra things. And then you can start putting it together in 9th grade and add to it each year, or you can wait till the end and put it together. That's up to you.
And I keep mine in a file online, and that's exactly what I do is I add to it as we go along. Sometimes I put in what I plan to do this year, and we don't get through something. Then I've got to go through and delete that because we just didn't get through that thing. Then when it comes time to graduate, you are the one who's going to issue the diploma. So you determine when they have met all the requirements that you have for them for their high school years. When they've met those requirements, you issue the diploma. You can make your own diploma. You can purchase one online. CHIO does a commencement ceremony every year, and there's a beautiful diploma given out at that the parent signs, because obviously CHIO didn't graduate you. The parent graduated the student. So there's lots of opportunities for that. We've always made our own on our own computer and printed it on our home printer here at home. And there are times when you may need that letter of excuse from compulsory attendance from their senior year to prove to a higher education or a military or something along those lines that the child was homeschooled in accordance with the law. So if you've got that letter of excuse from compulsory attendance, that proves to them that you have, that the child was actually homeschooled. They didn't just quit school and printed their own diploma off the computer at home. So you want to hang on to that.
Along with that, I would say finish the transcript, even if you don't think your child's going to go to college and it's their senior year and it's like, oh, I'm done. No, finish the transcript anyway and keep that with the diploma and the letter from the last year of college, and just keep that as a packet so that you've got every possibility covered for your student that you can.
My number 8 decided in January that she wanted to go to the Baldwin-Wallace Conservatory of Music this year, this fall. That was a lot of scrambling on my part and on her part, because she didn't have an audition prepared. So she had a lot of work to do, but she got in, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure. As questions come up over the years too, feel free to contact us. You know, I may not always be there, but Chio will always be there. So you can always contact the office. The phone number is at the bottom of the front page of the website. And any of the representatives, happy to help. That's why we're there. Anything else?
Sorry, one more thing.
Go ahead.
We may have missed the very beginning. So I remember last year at your meeting, you mentioned about being part of the CHIO group. Like, I thought you said something like there's a membership fee or a lifetime membership thing. I don't know if you covered that at the beginning. I'm sorry.
I went over it briefly. We don't actually, there's no lifetime membership, but we do appreciate financial support.
Okay.
To be a member is $30 for the first year, and after that it's a $25 a year renewal. And our website does show, you know, a little bit about what all you get from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Debbie, I think I remember, maybe she's thinking of Homeschool Legal Defense. I think they offer a discount if you're a member of a local or like a statewide
Yes.
group. So CHIO would qualify you. I
Yes.
remember possible conversation.
So
but
Homeschool Legal
offer a
Defense, Homeschool
Yeah.
Legal Defense Association is the legal group that helps you when you run into legal trouble. I have had to use them a couple times myself. We didn't run into legal trouble when we ran an Institute of Higher Learning, or in one case, the military did not understand homeschooling, and they told us that we needed to jump through hoops we didn't have to jump through. And so I just called HSLDA for backing, and all they had to do is make a phone call in one case, a letter in another. It was done. They just needed to hear from a lawyer. It helps sometimes. So HSLDA, I believe, is $125 a year, but they also do monthly payments. If you are a CHIO member, then you can get a $15 discount on that membership.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Okay, yep.
So thank you.
Yeah, if we were in person, I'd be handing you all of their brochures as well, but I can't do that.
HSLDA also does have the lifetime membership as well. I believe it's $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
We did that so long ago, it was $1,000 at the time.
We did
We had
too.
a lot- we knew we had a lot of years left to go, so we did it.
Yep, we got in at the lower rate too. They just raised it last year. All right, well, last chance. Anybody else?
Sorry, I have a question. I'm brand new to all of this, like a fish out of water here. So I'm sorry. Back to the application, it said something about with the curriculum you were going to use something about like a commercial something. I'm sorry. Could you explain what that was?
There are some companies that produce an entire curriculum where you just purchase the curriculum from them and use all of their stuff. In that case, you just write, you know, you don't have to necessarily specify every single item. You can just say that you're using this curriculum. Leslie, did you have comments on that at all? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you're able to make it to that curriculum fair, they'll be able to show you examples of that. Somebody will have something like that there.
Oh yeah, I'll be there at the beginning, But like I said, I work nights this week, so I work 7 on, 7 off. But this is my work week, so I'll be there at the beginning of the fair. It starts at 11. If you want to come, I can certainly meet you and chat. But then I'll be going home and going to bed. So, so
I've been
yeah.
homeschooling for a few years, and I also was a homeschool kid myself. So yeah, I have a few years of experience under our belts here between my husband and I. I'd be glad to talk to you on Saturday too.
Yep. Oh, I didn't even mention my kids. My oldest is 10, and we've been homeschooling since the beginning. We have 4. So, and Liz is even a little bit older. How old's your oldest? 12?
Well, he'll be 7th
Yep.
grade this year.
Yeah. So it's good. It's been a good journey. I'm very thankful for homeschooling. It was actually my husband's idea, but I'm all for
I
it.
hear that a lot actually lately.
Yeah. Yep. So. All right.
Please feel
Well.
free to share any information you got tonight with friends. You can share my email with friends. Encourage people to join the CHIO group. Again, they can contact me easily there, because I'm always there.
Great. Well, thank you for doing this, Debbie. We appreciate all your advice and wisdom and help in this.
Thank you all for being here, and let us know how we can help.
All right. Bye.